Hi, this is Chris Van Hillo with the City of Tampa's Visual Arts team. Today we are going to work on making some earrings. I have this little grouping sitting here because all these earrings share something in common. They started with a simple head pin. So head pins are basically a piece of wire that has a head at the bottom. This one is a ball. This is a ball head pin. There's also head pins that come, almost looks like a little top hat. They're flat on the bottom. So this is a flat head pin. Here's a head pin that has a loop at the bottom. Those are kind of fun. So for a head pin that has a loop in the bottom, I tend to do earrings like this, where I'll have something dropping down. You can do that with wire. You don't have to have a head pin, but we're going to do it both ways today. Here's another example of an earring that had a loop at the bottom so that I could jump on a drop. So I just want to show you, I'm going to grab a simple bead here. So let's say I was going to make this simple bead, just this simple bead, into a pair of earrings. They can be as elaborate as you want. You could add a bunch of beads, or you could just simply add a head pin. Okay, the head pin just holds it from falling out. Sometimes I put little silver balls, sterling silver, I put little balls, and I put little spacers, and I put bead caps. But the important part is it starts with the head pin. When you get to the top of your earring with whatever you add, it's very important that you know how to do that loop, how to tie off the end of the earring. So what I was going to suggest is, if you have pipe cleaners at home, these are the round nose pliers that when you wrap wire around them, they will stay round. So holding these pliers parallel with the floor, I would push my wire 90 degrees away from me. Then I would reposition my pliers, and I would bring that wire up and over until it's now touching its, sister wire. Then I would take the pliers out and put the bottom rung through. I would bring that up and over. And then basically all you're doing is twisting that tail around two or three times, and you're trying to really have it fit nicely underneath its neighbor. You might want to practice this with a pipe cleaner. So if I had, that's a really long head pin, that's really kind of a waste. So let's grab maybe a cheaper copper head pin here. Also, yes, of course, you can get head pins in various colors, various sizes. I really like the 3-inch head pin. I can always cut some off. Sometimes I hate these little short head pins. The short head pins are nice if you're doing like a chandelier type necklace, earring. So if I put this little head pin on here, like that, and let's say that's all it was going to be, I have to have a way to attach my ear wire. So I have to make that little loop. You can put it right through the ear wire, or you can jump it with a jump ring. I guess that's why they call them jump rings. Okay, so I would lay my pliers right down against my bead. I would fold that wire to where it's parallel, the same with the floor as the pliers. Then I'm going to pick those pliers up, rotate them. I'm going to bring this wire up and over. I'm going to take my pliers out. It almost looks like a little, question mark. Then I'm going to put my pliers through the bottom so that I can bring that up like that. And then if your wire is not, if it's a 22, 24 gauge, you'd literally be able to use your fingers. I'm just going to hold on to this so you can see me. And I am going to use my fingers. And I'm just going to bring this up and around. Now let's say this is being a little bit resistant, so I'm going to grab another pair of pliers, and I really have to hold on to that, and I'm going to bring it up and around with the pliers up, oops, and around. And sometimes when you do that, you kind of bend it, but that's okay. We can straighten it back out. Just bringing it up and around, up and around. You can reposition, bringing it up and around. And then when it's nice and tight, you're going to take your flush cutters and you're going to get right up in there and you're going to cut off that little tail. And you're going to make sure you put your finger over it because those things tend to go flying. Oftentimes when you cut that little tail, you'll have that little bit, just the tiniest bit of a tail still left. Can you see that little tag there? You can take your crimp pliers, you can take a pair of needle nose, and you just want to try to get behind it and crimp it down because that'll catch on your hair or your sweater. I didn't do a very good job crimping that, but I can crimp that later, okay? Okay. Then you have your little loop here that you can either attach directly to an ear wire or you can just use a jump ring to attach it to an ear wire. So every one of these pairs of earrings started with a jump ring. This one was a jump ring. Then I went to a silver ball. Then I went to a spacer. Then I went to my lampwork bead. And then I just worked in reverse. Had my spacer, had my silver ball, did my loop, had my jump ring, jumped it to my ear wire. There it is. Okay. This pair of earrings, basically the same thing. This was a ball head pin, had a smaller stainless sterling, medium sterling. That's probably maybe an 8. That's probably a 6. Added a bead cap, put in my bead, added a little spacer, went back to the 6/0, then added a little chip, then I did my little loop. So can you see the little loop there? There's the little loop. Then with a jump ring, I attached it to the ear wire. Okay. Same thing with this. Head pin, spacer, barrel bead, spacer, loop. These are those wonderful earrings that are on Amazon that have a little ball on the end of them, and you can literally just jump whatever you want and then pinch that together. And I don't even use jumps. These are fun. These are mushrooms. I made these to go with a kumi necklace that I was working on. So, head pin with a ball. I added a little Swarovski crystal. These mushrooms nest inside of each other. Then I added 2 more of my little Swarovski crystals. Then I did my loop with my round nose pliers, jump ring, earring. Same thing here. Same second verse, same as the first. Round head pin, Swarovski crystal, bead cap, larger Swarovski crystal, little spacer, smaller Swarovski crystal, say that fast 5 times. Then I did my little loop, jumped it to my jump ring, jumped it to my guitar pick, thank you Richard Thompson, poked a little hole in the top, used a jump ring, attached it to my ear wire. Okay, these are all exactly the same recipe. Exactly the same. So the fun part in making earrings is deciding what components you want to use. Sometimes you can find decorative head pins. This one's kind of fun. It has a little leaf at the bottom, and so when you look through it, you have this cute little decorative. That's kind of fun. All this room that I have to wrap, and that was with me being all the way flush down there. So that's why you need to have a head pin that has a little bit of wire left, or you're not going to be able to wrap it all the way down to your bead, okay? So I now am going to grab another pair of pliers because this is a 20 gauge wire. It's a little bit heavy. And I'm just going to grab and start pulling the wire. And you really have to hold on to this. And you're trying to keep it up against its neighbor. Okay? And yeah, you're going to have a little bit of a curve on the end. That's okay. That's where you keep grabbing it with your pliers. And you can just keep rotating those pliers around until you get it nice and tight. It is nice and tight. The bead's not going to move around. You can see I still have a little bit of a tail there. So I'm just going to take my wire cutters. I'm going to cut that off as close as I can get. Put my finger over it so it doesn't come up and pop me in the eye. And then there's usually that little bit of a tail left there Just grab onto that. And you can take your crimps and just crimp that little tail down. Keep rotating it around until you hit it just right. You can also use needle nose, you can use your regular pliers. Just, you can't use the chain nose because you can't really get in there. Okay? And so now you just have this cute little loop. Now if you bent it a little, trying to wrap that around, you can just, you know, pull it back straight, okay? So here is a simple little loop. And something just this simple could be added if you used one of the head pins that had the loop in the bottom, like I did on a couple of these. Here's a pair that I had a little loop on the bottom. Okay, I could do something like this and I could jump it to the bottom of that earring. So you just have to have your round loop here, and it's really important that you know how to do that with your pliers because that's how all these earrings end. And sometimes that's how these earrings start. I'm going to show you that right now. Just for a second, I'd like to talk about gauges of wire. The smaller the number, the larger the wire. So this is a 14 gauge copper, and you can see the size of that wire. This is a 20 gauge copper. You can see the difference. And this is a 24 gauge, and this is almost like a thread. This is very easy to bend by hand. So the larger the number, the thinner the wire. Kind of how it is with seed beads. The smaller the number, a size 6 seed bead is a lot larger than a size 15 seed bead. So just to give you a little bit on that. So the smaller the number, larger the wire. I'll push this out of the way. I have some artistic wire, 22 gauge here. And I usually work in sterling, so the artistic wire is going to be, it's probably not going to be quite as soft, but I think it'll serve my purpose. So I'm just going to cut a piece of this off. And I'm going to use this big old obnoxious pearl right here, because I can't find another bead right now. And I want to have a little loop coming out of the bottom of this pearl. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my round nose pliers, and I'm just going to bring this wire up, and then I'm going to put the bottom rung through. Well, do it like that and then bring it around. So I can actually double it if I want. That might be kind of fun. Just have a little double. You don't have to double it, but I'm going to double it. Now when I bring that wire through my bead hole, I'm going to bring both ends. Okay? And I have a little loop there. I would need to cut that. I would need to cut this tail because I see it's a little bit too long. Okay? You just take both of them, put it through your hole. Okay, now there's a double loop, and I'm not too sure I like the double, so let's just do a single. I don't really think it's necessary to do the question mark. You could literally just bring this around like this. Okay. So I'm going to have to cut this end off, or we're not going to be able to shove it in the bead. Bring both ends through. Okay, and then what you could do is you could just take it here and pinch it, but you really have to hold on to it. Okay, like that, and you have a little loop. Okay, that's another way that you can do it. Another way that you could do it, let's just straighten this out. And you do know that if you held this down with your pliers and took another pair of pliers, you can get that back to straight. I'm holding too tight. Just straighten it back out. Okay. Some people like these nylon coated tips because it doesn't mar their, I should have done it with these. It doesn't mar the wire. I'm not too wild about these, but I use them when I have to. Okay, so another way to do that loop would just be to take your round nose pliers. Now you could take this like this, move the plier like this, bring this up and over so you have that little question mark kind of thing, and then you could just, you don't have to wrap it around because it's going to go up through the top here. So if you like that more finished, you could do it that way too. Really doesn't matter how you do it. You just have to have a loop. And that way you can dangle things down from there. Here's one of the twist necklaces I made in our class last week. And I really like the gem chips and the daggers. So I decided to make a pair of earrings using the pearls, the gem chips, and the daggers. Very simply, I took my piece of wire, I made my loop, I added my dagger to that loop, I held it, I wrapped that loop off, so now I have a piece of wire, I added my pearl, I added my gem chips, made a loop at the top, jumped it onto my earring. That's all I did. I actually added some of the little crystals in here that I had used. Actually, I think I used those in my other necklace. No, maybe it wasn't this one. I'm not seeing them right now. But all I did was take components from this necklace and incorporate them into a pair of earrings. And before I closed off this loop at the bottom, I went ahead and put my dagger on there, closed it off, and then started adding all my other beads. I also made a pair of matching earrings to go with the first demo I had done in the twist. This was the first necklace. Remember the big balls? These earrings are simply using that little Swarovski crystal. So I put the Swarovski crystal on the bottom. Then I used a little spacer bead. This is a little 5mm spacer bead. If you don't have one of these little millimeter, this is a Fire Mountain gem. This thing truly is a gem because it just has all kinds of oogles and googles of information on here. Bead sizes, different gauges of wire. It's amazing. So I used a little 5mm spacer for the bottom. Then I added my ball. Then I added my 5mm spacer. Then I added my little Swarovski crystal. And those are probably, I don't even know, those are probably 11s. They're pretty small. And then I just closed off my loop like I have shown you guys how to do. Okay. This one, same thing. Added my loop at the bottom so that I could use a jump ring and add a drop. And then I used my sterling silver balls with my spacer. This is a 10mm bead cap on the top of there, and I threw a Swarovski crystal in there to make it look like it was a crown, Her Royal Majesty's crown, okay? Closed off my loop, and then these are some of those ball end earrings that I was telling you guys about that you can find on Amazon. Did also use these little spacers from Fire Mountain Gem. I don't know what those are called because they were a free gift, but I'm guessing they're probably a 10mm spacer. This was a fun project. Again, I was making different sets of matching earrings, so I put my loop and I put my ball through the loop and then I closed it off. And then I made these 3 little dangles. I just used a head pin. Let me grab one. I just used a head pin. I put my small Swarovski crystal and then a Swarovski bicone and then another 11 Swarovski crystal. Then I made my loop at the top, and then I just used a jump ring to attach all those loops to the bottom of the loop that was coming out of the ball. Okay. I'm not going to sit here and make each earring in front of you because I really just don't think it's necessary. You guys get this. Okay, again, there was a little loop at the bottom of this one. Fed that up through a small crystal. My freshwater pearl, another crystal, made another loop and jumped it. And then I just took a jump ring and added a little drop bead to the jump ring and closed it and through the loop. And there you have a little dangle. Okay. What is also fun is when you can buy components that have, so I bought these at a bead show and then I made them where they have little hoops on both sides. You can add little dangles. So I added this little coin to the end of that one. So it's if you know how to work with your jump rings, everybody understands that a jump ring opens like this. Jump rings are made by wrapping wire around like this. This is how you make jump rings. You just keep wrapping wire around a mandrel, okay? And then you cut those off and you have jump rings. So when you cut those off, they're used to going in that type of a rotation so that when you open them up, you don't pull them apart from front to back. You don't pull them apart like this. You pull, let me get a pair of pliers so you can see. You pull them apart by going front to back like this, by twisting like this. You don't open them, you know, try to open them by going out like this because I can't even get it open that way. It's pretty funny. I know I can, but if I tried to open it this way, I would never be able to get it back in round because it would distort and warp, okay? There's one other tool I want to show you guys, and that is the wubbers. I'm going to go grab my wubbers so I can explain what those are. These are wubber tools. These were the tools I was telling you guys about earlier. I don't really have a project right now to show you what I would do with these, but they're nice because you can take really thick wire and you can mold them around your wubber tools. These are graduated, so you can make jump rings on these, so you'd have a small, medium, large jump ring. Same with this, small, medium, large, but that small is even much larger than the large on this one. So they have them in various sizes. And then this, I love these. What you do is you just clamp your wire down and you turn your tool, and you can get these perfect little circles. So these are really fun. So these are like giant jump rings here. But it's a nice way to make jump rings. It's a nice way to make rings. And if you just keep turning it, you know, you're actually hard working the wire as you're. I love the perfection of the tool. The last thing I want to show you is kind of a fun project. I made a lot of these several years ago, these little angels or fairies, whatever you want to call them. You have different applications you can use. The cones that we put on the end of our beads, bead caps or bead cones, whatever you want to call them. And you just take a little head pin, and usually the head pin is going to go through. It didn't. Yes, it did. It went right through the bottom because the head is smaller than the opening of the cap. So you need to put a bead, either a lentil or a drop. You could probably put a 6/0 or an 8/0, but you have to have a stopper so it doesn't come up through the bead cap, something to stop it. And then you just take a pair of wings. They have all these different wings. They sell Fire Mountain Gem. I think Michael's has them. All these different wings. I love these little dragonfly wings. They remind me of my. So there's a little dragonfly. Yay! And then this is just this little 6mm Swarovski crystal. And that's the head. And then you just do the loop like I showed you how, and you jump it to a pair of ear wires, and you have a really cute little pair of earrings. So these are really fun to make around the holidays. I'm not really wild about that cone. She looks, I like the short squatty. I want my angels short and squatty. So here's a squatty one. Okay. And then maybe use a different, okay, like that. And then different, this is just all I have out right now. But they're kind of fun to make, especially around the holidays. And if you use a peridot or a jade or some kind of a pretty green, it's just a cute little project. So okay, I'm hoping you guys took some notes, have some questions, and you've got all kinds of fun ideas for the earrings that you want to make.